It was a slow Thursday afternoon at Granger's Grocery, a small-town corner store with scuffed floors, humming refrigerators, and the same cashier who had worked there for over a decade. Carol knew most of her regulars by name, and she could bag groceries faster than most people could scan them. That day she was halfway through her shift when she noticed a small boy standing in the checkout line alone. He couldn't have been more than 7. Dusty sneakers, a hoodie 2 sizes too big, and both hands clutching something tight in his fists. The customers in line behind him were mostly quiet, scrolling their phones or sighing softly, clearly in a hurry. Carol gave him a kind smile. "Hey there, sweetheart. Got something you want to buy?" The boy nodded shyly, stepping forward and placing a small box of Band-Aids and a pack of peanut butter crackers on the counter. Carol rang it up. "That'll be $3.78, honey." Then slowly the boy opened his hands. Inside were wrinkled $1 bills, a couple of nickels, a dime, and some lint. He counted carefully, his fingers trembling slightly as he pushed each coin across the counter like it weighed 100 pounds. 1, 2, 3, and 75, 76. Carol didn't rush him. She just watched. Something in his eyes, maybe the way he bit his lips when he miscounted, or the way he tried not to make eye contact, tugged at her heart. Behind him, a woman in her 30s stood holding a bottle of milk and a bag of rice. Her face was tired, the kind of tired that doesn't just come from a long day, but from carrying something heavier than most people can see. The boy looked up nervously. "Is it enough?" Carol didn't answer right away. She looked at the pile of coins, then at the Band-Aids, and finally at his hands, scraped red along the knuckles, with a small cut near the wrist. She swallowed. "It's just enough," she said softly. "You're all good." The boy's shoulders relaxed a little. He gave a small nod and reached for the bag, holding it close, like it was made of gold. Then he turned to leave. And that's when the woman behind him let out a quiet sound. Not quite a sob, not quite a gasp, just a break. Everyone turned. Her eyes were red, her hand covering her mouth. She dropped her milk and rice on the counter and whispered, "I'm sorry. Carol stepped around the register. "Ma'am, are you okay?" But she couldn't speak because she had just seen something she hadn't expected to see today. Something that shattered her in the most unexpected way. Not just a boy buying crackers, but a child alone, bruised, buying Band-Aids, and something inside her cracked wide open. Carol gently guided the woman away from the line and toward a bench near the front windows. The boy was already halfway through the automatic doors, but something in the woman's eyes stopped Carol cold. "Who is he?" the woman asked softly, her voice shaking. Carol paused. "I'm not sure. He's come in a few times before. Always polite, always alone." The woman wiped her eyes. I saw his hands, the cut, the way he counted his change, and I remembered." She stopped, swallowing hard. Carol sat beside her, saying nothing. "I was that kid," the woman whispered. "I know what it's like to be 7 years old and feel like the world forgot about you." The automatic doors whooshed open again, and the boy was gone. "I should have said something," the woman said, standing suddenly. "Do you know where he lives?" Carol shook her head. "No. I've asked before. He always says he's okay, that he just lives nearby." The woman looked toward the parking lot, like she might run after him. But there were too many cars, too many places he could have disappeared into. "I don't even know his name," she whispered. Carol stood too. "I don't either. But I can ask next time. He always comes around this time of day." The woman nodded slowly. "I want to help, I don't know why. I just feel like I'm supposed to." Carol saw it in her eyes. This wasn't pity. It was something deeper. A connection formed in an instant, a memory rising to the surface. They returned to the register. The milk and rice still sat there untouched. The rest of the day moved on. Scanners beeped. Customers came and went. But the moment lingered like a ghost between the aisles. The woman's name was Maria. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept picturing the boy's face. The way he whispered, "Is it enough?" The way he clutched the band-aids like they were meant for someone else. It wasn't just the scrape on his hands that haunted her. It was the silence in his eyes. The kind of silence you only learn when you've been told not to ask for help. The next day, Maria returned to the store around the same time. She stood near the entrance pretending to browse the weekly ads. And then, like clockwork, the boy appeared again. Same hoodie, same quiet steps. This time he carried nothing. Carol saw him too, and gave Maria a small nod. "Hi, sweetheart," Carol called out gently. "You back already?" He nodded, eyes flicking toward Maria, then back to the floor. Carol leaned on the counter. "You never told me your name, you know." The boy hesitated. "Leo." Carol smiled. "That's a strong name." Maria stepped forward slowly, careful not to frighten him. "Hi, Leo," she said softly. "I'm Maria. I saw you yesterday." He looked up at her, guarded. "You were really brave," she added, "buying those band-aids. I used to be brave like that too." Leo blinked, unsure how to respond. "Do you have someone at home?" Maria asked gently. "Someone to help with that cut?" He shifted from foot to foot. "My brother. He's 16. He works at night." Carol and Maria exchanged a quick glance. "No parents?" Maria asked. Leo shook his head once. "Not really." Maria knelt down. "I don't want to scare you, Leo. I want to make sure you're okay. That someone's looking out for you." Leo looked at her for a long time. His lip trembled slightly, but he didn't cry. He just said, "We're fine. We don't need anything." But the way he said it, like he'd said it 100 times before, told them everything they needed to know. Maria reached into her purse and pulled out a small card. "If you ever change your mind," she said, handing it to him, "this is my number. You can call me anytime, even if it's just to talk." Leo took the card slowly, tucked it in his pocket. Then he turned and walked back out the door. Carol exhaled. "You okay?" Maria didn't answer for a moment. Then she said, "Not until I know he is." The next few days passed slowly. Each afternoon, Maria came back to Granger's around the same time, hoping Leo would show up again. But he didn't. She waited by the windows, browsed the same aisles, kept a snack in her bag, just in case he needed it. Nothing. Carol noticed the tension in her posture. "He might just be laying low," she offered. "Kids like him, they learn not to be seen unless they have to be." Maria nodded. "Yeah, I was one of them." She hadn't told Carol much yet. But the truth was, Maria knew exactly what it was like to be a child raising yourself in the cracks of the system. To learn how to smile politely while hiding hunger. To tell teachers, neighbors, strangers, everything's fine, when nothing ever really was. It was why Leo's face haunted her. She didn't know what she wanted. Not to intrude, not to take over, just to make sure he knew someone saw him, that he wasn't invisible. Then 4 days later, she got a call. It was almost 9 p.m. She was doing dishes when her phone buzzed with a number she didn't recognize. At first, she almost let it go to voicemail. But something told her to pick up. "Hello." There was a pause, then a quiet voice. "Is this Maria?" She set the dish down gently. "Yes." "Who's this?" "It's Leo." Her breath caught. "I remembered your card," he said. "I hope that's okay." "It's more than okay, sweetheart," she said, sitting down. "Are you all right?" "I think my brother's sick," he whispered. "He's been coughing all day, and he didn't go to work." "Are you home alone?" "Yeah. I don't know what to do. We don't have medicine." Maria grabbed her purse. "Where do you live, Leo?" There was a pause again. Then he gave her the address, a run-down apartment building on the edge of town. "I'm coming right now," she said. "Stay by your brother, okay? I'll be there soon." She called Carol on the way, who contacted a family services liaison she knew, just in case. When Maria arrived, the building looked worse than she expected. Peeling paint, flickering hallway lights, and the faint scent of mold in the air. But Leo was waiting by the door, his face pale but alert. He led her inside. His brother Marcus lay curled on a mattress on the floor. Their apartment was nearly empty, a few old dishes in the sink, 2 thin blankets, and a small space heater humming in the corner. Maria knelt beside Marcus. He was burning up. "I'm calling someone to help." "Okay," she said gently. Marcus tried to sit up. "We're fine," he croaked. "We don't need." "You do," she said firmly. "And it's okay to need." The paramedics arrived 20 minutes later. Marcus was taken to the hospital with a suspected infection. Leo held his hand all the way to the ambulance. Maria followed behind in her car. At the hospital, Leo waited in the lobby with wide eyes, knees bouncing nervously. Maria sat beside him the whole time, hands folded in her lap. "You don't have to stay," Leo said quietly. "I know," she replied, "but I want to." He looked down. "People don't usually do that." Maria leaned in. "They should." A nurse came out later with an update. Marcus would be okay with rest and medication, he'd recover. But they needed to stay overnight. Leo was cleared to wait in a family room nearby. Before heading in, he turned to Maria. "Do you think—" He started hesitating. "Do you think I messed everything up?" "No, honey," she said, kneeling in front of him. "I think you saved him." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, unopened box of Band-Aids, the same kind he'd bought at the store. "For next time," she said. "But hopefully, there won't be a next time." Leo smiled for the first time in days. Maria didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know how involved she'd be, or what the future held for Leo and Marcus. But in that moment, she knew this. She was meant to be there. The next morning, Maria returned to the hospital with fresh clothes, snacks, and books for Leo. She found him curled up in a chair outside Marcus's room, his head resting against the wall. He sat up quickly when he saw her. "Is he okay?" Maria nodded. "He's doing better. Fever's down. The doctor said it's good you acted fast." Leo looked relieved but exhausted. She handed him a small bag. "Some breakfast for you, and socks. That floor in the waiting room is like ice." He smiled shyly, tugging the bag into his lap. Inside Marcus's room, the teenager was propped up on pillows, pale but alert. When Maria stepped in, he tried to sit straighter. "I'm sorry," he said, "about all of this." "You don't need to apologize," she replied gently. "I've been trying to take care of him," he said. "Since our mom passed, it's just been us. And I'm working nights, and sometimes we get by, sometimes we don't." Maria sat beside him. "You did more than most adults would, but you don't have to do it alone anymore." He looked at her cautious. "You with social services?" "No," she said. "I'm just someone who saw your brother and couldn't ignore it." A tear slid down Marcus's cheek. He wiped it away quickly. Maria stayed most of the day. She helped Leo wash up, brought Marcus a charger for his phone, and kept track of the hospital paperwork. She didn't hover, she didn't push. She just stayed present, something the boys weren't used to. Later, as she sat in the hospital cafe, she got a call from Carol. "Just wanted to check in," Carol said. "Any update?" Maria smiled into the phone. "They're okay. And I think they might finally catch a break." Carol exhaled. "Good. You know, I had a woman in the store earlier today. She'd seen your little moment with Leo. Said it reminded her of her own son. Said she went home and hugged him a little tighter." Maria was quiet for a moment. "It's strange, isn't it? How something so small, a kid buying Band-Aids, can shift people like that." "Not strange," Carol replied. "Just powerful." Maria hung up and returned to Leo, who was now drawing with a pen on a hospital notepad. She sat beside him. "What are you making?" she asked. He flipped the notepad around. It was a wobbly but sweet sketch of the store Grangers, with Carol behind the register and Maria standing next to him. Above it, in big, uneven letters, he had written, "Thank you for seeing me." Maria didn't speak. She just reached over and gently pulled him into a hug. That night, Marcus was discharged, and the hospital social worker came by to go over options. Maria stayed through the entire meeting. She wasn't family, but no one questioned her presence. The caseworker said she would try to fast-track their application for housing support. A temporary shelter was available, clean, safe, and stable. The boys wouldn't have to sleep on a mattress on the floor anymore. Before they left the hospital, Maria walked them to the exit. "Will we see you again?" Leo asked, gripping the drawing in his hand. "Only if you want to," Maria said softly. He didn't answer. He just stepped forward and hugged her again, tighter this time. As they walked toward the waiting shuttle, Maria stood at the doors watching. Then she pulled out her phone and opened her notes app. At the top she typed, "Sometimes all a child needs is one adult to see them. Really see them." And she knew this wasn't over. This wasn't just a moment in a grocery store. This was the beginning of something bigger. Weeks passed. Maria kept in touch with Leo and Marcus, at first through short check-ins, then longer visits. The boys were placed in transitional housing through a local support program, and Marcus started receiving help for job placement and grief counseling. For the first time in years, they had stability. Warm meals, a bed that didn't double as a couch, a door they could lock and feel safe behind. Leo started going to a nearby school full-time. The teachers said he was shy, quiet, but kind. Always the first to share his snack or offer to help clean up. And when asked to draw something that made him feel safe, he didn't hesitate. He drew a grocery store and a woman with tired eyes and a soft voice kneeling beside him. Maria was invited to speak at the school's community appreciation event, not because she asked to, but because Leo had submitted her name. She didn't know what to say at first. She wasn't used to being in the spotlight. She was just someone who couldn't walk away. So when she stood in front of the modest crowd of teachers, parents, and volunteers, she didn't try to say anything profound. She just told the truth. "I wasn't supposed to be there that day," she said. "I had just stopped in to get rice and milk, and I saw a little boy who reminded me of myself. That's all. That's what started this." She looked over at Leo, in the front row, swinging his feet, clutching the same worn sketchbook he carried everywhere. "We think these small moments don't matter," she continued. "But sometimes the tiniest act, a handshake, a dollar, a Band-Aid, becomes a lifeline. Not because of what it costs, but because of what it tells someone you are not invisible. I see you." After the event, a woman approached her, a school counselor, and said, "You should consider writing about this, or starting something. There are more kids like Leo. Too many." Maria thought about that. She hadn't planned any of this. She didn't have a degree in social work or a title that gave her authority. But what she did have was memory, a childhood built on silence, and a chance now to give that silence a voice. So she started small. A blog, then a website, then a local support group called One Act, focused on helping community members recognize, reach, and respond to vulnerable kids around them. Teachers, grocery clerks, bus drivers, baristas, anyone who had the power to notice. Carol became one of her first volunteers. "I've been seeing kids like him for years," she said. "I just didn't know what to do." Now she did. Meanwhile, Leo kept growing. He got taller, stronger, more confident. He started telling people he wanted to be a doctor one day, or maybe a social worker, or maybe just someone who made people feel better, like Maria did for him. One afternoon, as they sat on a bench outside the community center, he handed her a folded paper. It was a new drawing. This one showed a little boy no longer alone, standing between two grown-ups, one with a badge that said brother, and us holding a notepad labeled One Act. Maria smiled. Is that me? Leo nodded. You're in all my stories now. She brushed a tear from her cheek. That okay with you? He grinned. It's my favorite part. That night, Maria updated her blog with a new post titled, The Boy Who Bought Band-Aids. She told the story from the beginning, the change on the counter, the trembling hands, the woman in line who couldn't hold back her tears. She wrote not just for Leo, but for every child out there quietly asking, is it enough? And for every adult who needed to be reminded, sometimes all it takes to change a life is being the one who says, yes, it is.
Subscribe and turn on notifications for inspiring Bible stories and faith-filled wisdom. Comment below. How did this story touch you? Your words can inspire others. Share this video to spread God's hope. Stay tuned for more soul-stirring truths and keep trusting as God's love leads you.